Good morning.
Hey, what's up good people, it's YellowMotion here and welcome to my review for Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, the action RPG developed by CyberConnect 2, the studio that made the many Naruto Storm games, as its premise is about to deliver the ultimate Dragon Ball Z experience, not just by reliving the entire Dragon Ball Z saga with its many iconic moments, but also pretty much reliving everything as Goku in the world of Dragon Ball, as you fight, fish, eat, train, and explore new areas and meet various characters. So, did it live up to the hype of being this ultimate action RPG game that retells the entire Dragon Ball Z saga? Well, here's what I had to say on that, on what I liked about this game and what I didn't like so much about it, in this review for Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. For many years there have been dozens of Dragon Ball games pretty much retelling the story over and over again, and I've been playing my fair share of Dragon Ball games, but it truly never has been a game that takes you through the entire Dragon Ball Z story in a very detailed manner. And I'm sure many fans always wanted to play a game where you relived every step of the story arcs with various characters, not just the fighting parts. And Dragon Ball Z Kakarot seemed to deliver on this premise. The gameplay of this game is pretty much straightforward, as you're going step by step throughout the events of each saga, and you need to do various things according to what happened in the saga with the various characters. Whether it's Goku, Kid Gohan, Piccolo, you name it, you'll get to play with the appropriate character in each saga according to the events that happen in the story. And this is a good thing, as I was quite surprised to see how much of the story they actually had put in this game, such as Piccolo training Kid Gohan while preparing for him for the arrival of the Saiyans, or Goku just having a brief talk with King Yama, as it really makes you part of the story, and each saga has an in-depth retelling of the events, with quite a lot of dialogue as you can imagine, as almost nothing is left out, and that's a really good thing, as there hasn't been a Dragon Ball game that has done this the way that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot does, and you'll be having a very good time just playing this game for the story, as it's one big nostalgia trip. What I also really loved is that you have the freedom to fly and free roam in the world of Dragon Ball, as free roaming in the game is easily one of the best parts and one of the highlights of the game. This is the first time ever that I can recall that you can do this freely and visit pretty much each iconic place that you have seen or remember. They have pretty much put every place you can imagine. And throughout the game you will also meet and see various characters from the entire Dragon Ball history, ranging from the original Dragon Ball up to Dragon Ball Z, and even some characters from Dragon Ball FighterZ and Xenoverse, as most of these are there for sub-stories and fan service. And just playing this game for its story and nothing else should be good enough for a minimum of 30 plus hours. And even after finishing it, it provides you with plenty of stuff to do. Another obvious but very important aspect of the game is the fighting, the combat. And if you played Xenoverse, well, this game really feels very similar to it, but it has its own twist to it, as you can do all the stuff you expect. Freely move, attack, do the launchers, your special attacks, and so on. The combat is simple and easy to learn, but it's most importantly fun, while the upgrading system for your characters is also very nicely done, as throughout the game you'll increase your character level and unlock new moves and upgrade them. You'll get used to the combat very easily and will adapt to new situations as they arise. It's not very groundbreaking or new, but you will truly feel like you've been there before, because it's very similar to the other Dragon Ball games you've played over the years. And throughout the game, the combat doesn't really provide you a challenge, as you can pretty much button mash your way through the first parts of the game, but eventually you will need to use some skill in order to finish the game, as with each saga, things get obviously harder, with stronger opponents and boss fights. Now, it's one thing to make a game that retells the story of the entire saga, but it's also another thing to present it in a way that truly captures a lot of memorable and iconic moments from the anime, and let you pretty much experience that in the game, as the storytelling is shown and presented in many forms that range from simply gorgeous to straight out boring to watch for most of the times. And here's what I mean by that, as throughout my playthrough you can clearly notice which parts and scenes are prioritized and have been the main focus of this game and which weren't, as obviously the big fights and the big highlights are those of the main bosses and the showdowns, as CyberConnect 2 has done an amazing job in capturing and showing these moments in a very beautiful and gorgeous way, as if they came straight out of the anime. I mean, they look simply fantastic. It's what CyberConnect 2, the studio, is known for the best, and it really shines in these parts, as the level of detail in these animations are simply gorgeous to watch. And throughout each saga, you can just wait to see how they will portray certain iconic scenes and encounters. And this is also the same for boss fights. So whether you're fighting Raditz, Vegeta, Frieza, Cell or Kid Buu, they truly are simply great and unforgettable, with many in-between scenes during the fights that really captures these special moments that only Dragon Ball fans will remember that have watched the anime. And I really love that, and I just wished there was just more of these awesome stuff. Then you have a bit of a downgrade, where you have those in-between scenes where not so much is happening, but mostly they serve as dialogue scenes, where still important stuff is happening. I mean, they don't look bad at all, but obviously it's not in the detail as those amazing scenes that are saved for the main villains and encounters. And lastly, yet unfortunately, you have a huge downgrade, where you have those simplistic scenes, as these are just these static scenes where just dialogue happens between characters. And over time, it just became a pain to watch these, as if you can just feel you've seen that before of other Dragon Ball games, as the characters barely move, have any movements at all, and the framing of the camera is so awkwardly placed, hiding their mouths, so you won't see the animations. It makes everything look more awful, honestly. And unfortunately, you will be seeing a lot of these scenes in the entire game. As you can imagine, the game has a lot of dialogue to tell and go through pretty much all of the events and every detail of the saga. I mean, look, it's something you have to put it in your game, right? Show and retell every important aspect of the game, but the presentation most of the time is just so lackluster and becomes so boring that you just want to get over with. There are times in the game where the narrator will tell the story and how it's moving forward. I'd rather have these moments in the game where you have still frames, where the narrator sums up certain events, instead of having to watch these painful scenes over and over again. But don't get me wrong, you can clearly tell that the game is really made for Dragon Ball fans. However, I feel like with a bit more time, the presentation parts on several scenes could have been drastically improved a lot to be on par with the scenes of the boss fights, for example. Those are the highlights and the memorable moments of the game. So look guys, in a nutshell, the gameplay loop of Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is pretty much following and reliving the story of the entire saga. And it lets you do all kind of stuff in between, such as, exploring various environments, fighting opponents you come across while free roaming, doing additional sub-stories, go out fishing, playing minigames, and even let Chi-Chi make you some meals. And of course, all of these activities are here for two reasons. One, it's for fan service of course, but the other one is also to level up your character and pretty much give you the RPG element, right? But unfortunately, it doesn't feel like you're playing a true Dragon Ball RPG game. As in my experience, all of these activities are not necessary at all in order for you to just enjoy the game and finish the main story. As a matter of fact, the only real thing I did was unlock new moves and abilities for each character, as you naturally will level up in the game when you do the main story, and you will never really feel like you're getting stuck and need to train more to level up and try again. And even if you're having a hard time with certain battles, the game easily provides you much options, such as senzu beans and potion drinks to heal you straight up so you can finish the fight. Or even when you're just free roaming, you can refill your entire health by simply resting at these campfires. I can certainly imagine that if this game would have been released at the launch of this generation, then it actually would have been bonkers, seriously, because many things would have been so fresh, so new, and never seen before in a Dragon Ball game. But that's the thing, with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, you can't deny that you've been there and done that before, whether it's the gameplay or the boss battles. Yes, it has its own uniqueness, but I'm not sure if that difference is too huge. Because there have been many Dragon Ball Z games throughout the years that pretty much always have shown the highlights of the series, those being the main boss battles with the most iconic characters. And the most memorable moments in this game are also the boss fights, the showdowns, and of course the flying in the game. You can clearly see that the real good stuff is saved for these moments, and the rest is pretty much on a standard level, like you've seen in the other games. So one of the things that it's supposed to capitalize on is the ability to free roam freely in the world of Dragon Ball and do all of these activities. Yet each place has pretty much the same stuff, and there isn't much besides flying in these small environments that feel disjointed, as the in-between loading times between each area is also a drag. You You also get a chance to play with various characters in the game as part of the story, such as Vegito, Gotenks, and Kid Gohan. But unfortunately, after finishing the main story, you only get to choose between a handful of characters to play and continue your journey. However, for what it's worth, it still manages to offer the best representation of the entire anime. You can really feel that the game had to cut corners in many places throughout the story, and if there was just more development time to polish the game before release, I bet that the game could have been something truly special. But still, this game does one job very well. It retells the entire Dragon Ball Z story in a very detailed manner, and for that alone, it really stands out from the countless other Dragon Ball games that have been made. To call this game a true Dragon Ball RPG would be an overstatement. It's more like an action-adventure game that has some RPG elements. But look, one way or another, if you're a fan of the Dragon Ball franchise, then you should definitely play this game, as you will surely have a good time nonetheless. With its soundtrack, the free roam, the various places, seeing various characters, and the many Easter eggs that has been put in the game, it surely is worth it. As Dragon Ball Z Kakarot will surely give you the best experience in reliving the entire Dragon Ball Z story. There you have it, guys. I hope you had a good time watching my review for Dragon Ball Z Kakarot and have a good idea of what to expect from the game. So my question to you is, have you played Dragon Ball Z Kakarot and what did you think of it? Be sure to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed the video, then please give it a like and share it. And also make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell to be notified every time I upload a new video. And if you want to get updates and get connected, then you can follow me at YellowMotion on social media. And that'll do it for me, guys, for this one. Thanks a lot for being here and thanks a lot for watching. I see you guys in the next one. Peace.